They told you to find your voice, then trained you to apologize for every sound it made. They told you to be free, but handed you a script called decency. They said the truth will set you free, but only if you speak it gently, with disclaimers, with fear, with trembling politeness before the altar of other people's comfort. And that is how the soul of man died, explaining itself to death. You lose power every time you explain yourself. You lose the divine spark each time you kneel before misunderstanding. You lose the thunder when you turn your lightning into footnotes. I tell you, there is no greater poverty than to need to be understood. The lion does not explain why it roars. The storm does not apologize for breaking the branches. The fire simply burns, and that is its innocence. I saw you, modern man, wrapped in invisible chains of approval, each link forged by your own explanation. You explain your anger so you can be liked. You explain your joy so you won't be envied. You explain your silence so it won't be misread. But the moment you explain, you kneel, you confess, you ask permission to exist. And permission is the invention of the weak. Do you not feel how the air has grown heavy with excuses? The herd lives in apology, its every breath, a justification. The age of authenticity became the age of exposure. You turned your souls into content, your truth into merchandise. Every confession became a performance. Every vulnerability, a brand. The world no longer wants your depth, it wants your transparency. Your skin peeled open for consumption. And you, in your hunger to be seen, mistake nakedness for intimacy. I tell you, explanation is the new religion of slaves. You call it empathy, but it is surveillance. You call it communication, but it is control. You call it kindness, but it is the slow death of freedom. The herd demands not your truth, but your surrender, yourself turned inside out, so no mystery remains. For mystery is danger. It cannot be monetized, cannot be tamed. And so they strip you of it, one justification at a time. Do you see it now? The polite are the new priests. The meek are the new tyrants. Every smile is a sermon of submission. Every apology is incense to the god of conformity. You, who once dreamed of eternity, now fear the disapproval of a stranger's comment. You, who once prayed to the abyss, now check your reflection in the eyes of algorithms. I have seen your temple's screens glowing like candles in the night, and I know you have traded your soul for validation. I walked among you and felt your fear. It smells of reason and self-doubt. You say, I must explain myself so they understand I meant no harm. But when did truth become harmful? You say, I must clarify so they don't misinterpret me. But when did misunderstanding become death? You are possessed by the need to be interpreted correctly, as if the mirror of others determines your shape. You live not by instinct, but by approval metrics. You breathe not air, but consensus, and yet you wonder why your power rots. You have become so reasonable, so explainable, so digestible that the gods themselves no longer find you worth visiting. The ancient madness that once created worlds has been replaced by politeness. The soul that once howled with creation now tweets apologies. You do not live, you present. You do not burn. You describe the flame. I tell you, explanation is the slow crucifixion of the Creator within you. Every time you justify, you betray your chaos. Every time you translate your fire for the dull, you dilute your own divinity. You want to be loved, but love is impossible without risk. You want to be seen, but sight demande distance. You want to be accepted, but the accepted never change the world. Listen, greatness is not polite. Truth is not a consensus. God did not explain himself when he spoke worlds into being. He thundered, and creation obeyed. The overman does not persuade, he radiates. The moment you try to convince, you confess uncertainty. The strong do not explain, they embody. You think explanation will save you from loneliness, but it is explanation that creates it. The one who always explains never meets another, only mirrors. The one who needs to be understood will forever belong to those who misunderstand. You think understanding is union, but it is reduction. They cannot hold your whole being. They can only name it. And names are cages. You want to be known? Then stop describing yourself. You are not a concept. You are not your trauma, your resume, your opinion, your apology. You are the untranslatable pulse beneath it all. The moment you explain, you step outside yourself, and the world eats your reflection. But the herd cannot bear silence. They call silence arrogance, mystery manipulation, solitude, selfishness. They say, "Speak, explain yourself." We demand clarity, but clarity is their word for obedience. You were not born to be clear, you were born to be vast. The ocean does not explain its tides. The mountain does not justify its height. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be inevitable. I saw your eyes when they stared at their screens, so hungry to be right, so terrified to be misread. You fight for opinions, not for truth. You defend ideas you don't believe in, just to belong. You have forgotten the ancient joy of contradiction, the ecstasy of being misunderstood by the world, yet faithful to your chaos. The over-civilized soul fears being misjudged. But judgment is the birthplace of all gods. The first creator was misunderstood, and in that wound, eternity bloomed. The world fears the unexplainable because it cannot own it. That is why they killed God. He was too ambiguous. That is why they silence the poets. They cannot be paraphrased. And that is why they crucify those who speak from fire, because fire cannot be explained without burning the tongue. I tell you, every saint of truth was first condemned as insane. Every prophet was first called arrogant. Every creator was first accused of blasphemy against common sense. Blessed are the misunderstood, for they have refused translation. But you who fear silence, who dress your wildness in manners, how will you ever birth the new? You speak like prisoners explaining to their guards why they deserve the sunlight. You explain your anger to those who have never felt passion, your vision to those whose eyes are dim with comfort. Do you not see how absurd it is to ask permission to be real? Stop explaining. Start existing. There is a sacred arrogance in authenticity. It is not pride, it is power remembered. To live unapologetically is not to reject others. It is to refuse to amputate yourself for their comfort. You think humility is holy, but the truest humility is to accept your greatness without disguise. The flower does not hide its color out of courtesy to the stone. The sun does not dim its light for the sake of the night. You will be hated for it. Good. Hatred is a sign of life. Love is often just consumption disguised as praise. But hatred proves you exist beyond comprehension. When the mediocre hate you, it means you have stopped being their mirror. When the herd mocks you, it means you have begun to shine. They hate in you what they buried in themselves. Do not try to explain your radiance to the blind. Do not explain your hunger to those who eat dust. Do not explain your fire to water. Every time you do, you lose a piece of the sun. Speak once and then walk away. Silence after truth is the most powerful echo. Let them misunderstand you. Misunderstanding is their only protection from awakening. I have seen the death of heroes come not by sword, but by explanation. They clarified their genius until it became digestible. They softened their truth into quotes. They turned their rebellion into self-help. And the crowd clapped, for nothing threatens the crowd more than a man they cannot summarize. The day they understand you completely is the day you cease to matter. Do not be clear. Be real. There is more life in one unspeakable gesture than in 1,000 well-explained beliefs. There is more eternity in one act of defiance than in 1,000,000 polite words. Do you want to live forever in memory or dissolve safely in understanding? Choose. The gods remember the misunderstood. The herd forgets its own reflections. The overman is born in the moment he stops explaining his vision. The overman does not justify, he manifests. He does not argue, he incarnates. He does not defend, he becomes. His life is his philosophy, his breath, his scripture. He knows that every word limits the infinite, and so he speaks only when silence would be a lie. His yes is a cosmos. His no, a lightning strike. He is both sermon and storm. You ask, but what if they reject me? As if rejection were worse than self-betrayal. They already reject what is real in you. For reality is intolerable to those who worship image. The question is not whether they accept you. It is whether you can accept the solitude that freedom demands. You were not made to be understood. You were made to be experienced. The moment they think they know you, you are already dead. I do not seek followers, I seek flames. Followers want explanations. Flames want oxygen. You think you want meaning, but what you crave is vitality. You do not want to understand. You want to feel alive. And understanding kills the mystery that keeps you breathing. Explanation is embalming. Once you are fully understood, you are a corpse of clarity. So burn, and let them guess the source of your light. Live so intensely that interpretation becomes impossible. Let them argue whether you were mad or divine. Both are correct. The Creator is always both. The madman sees too much. The divine one endures it. Do not explain your paradox, embody it. You lose power every time you explain yourself. The phrase is not warning, it is initiation. Every god must learn to be misread. Every creator must embrace distortion. Every flame must accept that smoke will rise and confuse the air. But fire does not apologize for its smoke. It continues to burn. The misunderstanding of the world is the crown of the awakened. Do not seek clarity, seek consequence. Do not seek understanding, seek eruption. The world will call you arrogant, obscure, dangerous, but these are the names of those who disturb sleep. And you were not born to cradle dreams, you were born to shatter them. Do you hear it? The whisper in the bones of the world saying, be reasonable. That word reasonable is the graveyard of every revelation. The world bows, not to the madman who sees, but to the dull who explain, yet I tell you, it was never the reasonable who built civilization. It was the possessed, the unexplainable, the ones whose very existence offended balance. The prophets were unreasonable. The creators were unreasonable. God, himself, in his primal act, was unreasonable. He said, let there be, when there was no one to listen. You, child of algorithms, you have forgotten the courage of irrational creation. You need consensus to breathe. You count likes to measure worth. You have reduced ecstasy to engagement and replaced mystery with analytics. You do not ask, what burns? You ask, what performs? You are the first species to measure its soul in views. I have walked your digital temples, scrolling like rosaries through the confessions of the anesthetized. Every sentence begins with apology and ends with self-doubt. You have built a world where the only sin is intensity. Once, men feared hell. Now they fear misunderstanding. Once, they sacrificed lambs to gods. Now they sacrifice their wildness to civility. I tell you, nothing dies more tragically than a spirit killed by explanation. When you explain your passion, it becomes content. When you explain your pain, it becomes performance. When you explain your silence, it becomes guilt. And thus, the holy becomes currency. Do not let them turn your abyss into entertainment. The abyss is sacred. It devours explanation. You were not meant to be consumed. You were meant to consume yourself in the fire of transformation. You fear being judged. But judgment is holy. Only through the hammer of judgment does the raw ore become form. Do not run from criticism. Let it strike you until you ring with truth. The herd's judgment is your purification, not your punishment. I once said, "Become who you are." But now I must shout, stop explaining who you are. You explain as if existence were a courtroom and you the accused. You build alibis of reason for crimes of authenticity. You call it communication, but it is confession under duress. You are not obligated to be understood by those who have never met themselves. Their judgment is made of fog, it passes. But your compromise, your shrinking remains. I have seen the disease of clarity infect the poets. They once sang in thunder, now they footnote their own souls. The artist apologizes before he creates. The philosopher writes prefaces to avoid offense. The lover explains his intensity as trauma, and the mystic hides behind irony. The age of fire is over. We live in the age of disclaimers, but I tell you the disclaimers will burn. The soul cannot remain explained for long. It rebels. It breaks the sentence. It floods the polite vocabulary with tears and chaos. The unexplainable always returns, like Dionysus returning from death, laughing at your order. You can bury madness under manners, but the roots of fire grow in silence. You think reason protects you from suffering, but it protects you from transformation. You cannot think your way into transcendence. You must be broken. You must be misunderstood. You must walk through the desert of being unseen. Only there, in that burning loneliness, does the seed of the overman awaken. The overman is not a man of reason. He is the child born after the death of explanation. He no longer seeks to convince. His existence is argument enough. His presence is language. He has no need to defend his reality defends itself. The overman is the living yes that annihilates the question. I speak to you not as philosopher, but as volcano. I do not want you to understand me, I want you to erupt. Let my words be lightning in your marrow. Let them strike down your civility. Let them awaken that savage pulse you've hidden beneath politeness. Civilization has trained you to apologize for your instincts. But instinct is truth. Civilization calls your passion dangerous because it cannot monetize it. Do not explain your hunger. Feed it. Do not explain your vision. Build it. Do not explain your silence. Guard it. There is power in what you withhold. There is holiness in opacity. The gods speak in riddles because clarity kills divinity. You think the world will love you more if you explain. It will not. The world only respects what it cannot define. Mystery commands attention because it is the echo of eternity. Look at the serpent, silent, inscrutable, feared. It has no need to explain its movement. It simply moves and kingdoms tremble. Be like that. Speak less. Radiate more. I tell you, explanation is the religion of the timid. They worship agreement. They pray to consensus. Their gospel is context. Their heaven is approval. But you, if you have heard me, you must betray that God. You must blaspheme the cult of explanation. Every apology you withdraw is an exorcism. Every silence you choose is resurrection. The world will call you cold. Let them. The world will call you arrogant. Let them. The world will call you mad. Let them. Madness is the signature of those who have refused translation. They cannot name what you are, and so they fear it. And fear is worship in disguise. You lose power every time you explain yourself, but you gain eternity every time you remain silent in your truth. When you stop explaining, your energy stops leaking. When you stop defending, your presence grows unbearable. When you stop softening, your words become steel. This is why they fear you. They can no longer feed on your justification. The herd survives on your self-doubt. Withdraw it, and they starve. I speak not to your mind, but to your dormant divinity. Do you feel it? The pulse beneath logic, the trembling behind reason? That is the ancient will stirring. It does not explain, it acts. It does not plan, it erupts. The will is the God you forgot while explaining morality. The will is the raw sunlight that blinds those addicted to shadows. You do not need permission to be great. You need only to stop negotiating your light. They have taught you that humility is virtue, but what they meant was obedience. True humility is to kneel before your own magnificence without flinching. To say, yes, I am dangerous. To say, yes, I am divina. To say, yes, I will not explain this glory to you. The humble man who denies his power is a liar. The proud man who acknowledges his divinity is free. I am not here to comfort you. I am here to remind you that comfort is death disguised as peace. You have been lulled into stillness by compassion without courage, empathy without truth. You fear offending, but offense is the wound through which reality enters. Better to be hated for being alive than loved for being absent. Do you still think you can explain yourself into acceptance? Foolish child, the crowd's love is never love. It is hunger. They devour what they understand and crucify what they do not. The only safety is in the untamed. The only sanctuary is in the misunderstood. You must learn to be misread without shrinking, to be feared without apology, to be envied without dilution, to walk among the crowd as a question they cannot answer. This is the posture of the divine. You say, but I want to be known. Then I ask, by whom? The crowd? The critics? The ghosts of those who never dared to live? You are not here to be known. You are here to become unknowable. The stars do not need recognition. They are recognition itself. I tell you, explanation is the suicide of mystery. And mystery is the womb of creation. To remain unexplainable is to remain alive in the eyes of eternity. When you explain, you fix yourself in time. When you refuse, you become myth. Let them misunderstand you good. Misunderstanding is proof that you are beyond language. Even God is misunderstood, eternally. That is why he remains. And yet, I see your hesitation, the trembling urge to soften, to clarify, to be liked. I see your need to justify your fire, but you cannot be both flame and comfort. You must choose. Either you explain yourself into acceptance, or you remain wild and alone but alive. The overman chooses aloneness, for in aloneness he is unowned. The crowd will never understand his language. They hear thunder and call it noise. But the storm does not ask for comprehension, it strikes, and in striking, reveals truth. I do not want to be understood. I want to be remembered as a wound in the collective sleep. So too must you become a wound, a reminder that reality bleeds. Listen closely, for I am descending now from fury into revelation. The storm quiets not because it is over, but because it has become knowing. The silence after the roar is not peace. It is power. It is the moment when the Creator surveys the ruins of explanation and whispers, "It is good." You do not owe anyone your self-explanation. You owe the world your transformation. Speak only when your silence would betray the truth. And even then, speak like thunder, not like justification. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be experienced. You were born as chaos, yet you have spent your whole life trying to translate yourself into order. You, who were meant to be the lightning, became the lamp. You, who were destined to roar, became an echo. Every time you explain, you turn your divine contradiction into a sentence small enough to be approved. You turn your infinity into a paragraph. But I tell you, the soul dies in grammar. The moment you become explainable, you are no longer alive. Only categorized, the world wants you labeled because labels are graves. Once you have a name, you can be managed. Once you are understood, you can be consumed. But the fire cannot be managed. It must be danced with. The overman walks as flame incarnate. He gives warmth, and he destroys, but he never explains. He is the living paradox, both danger and salvation. I saw you, modern humanity, bleeding brilliance through your explanations. You give reasons for your boundaries, as if sovereignty needs justification. You give reasons for your choices, as if instinct owes an alibi. You give reasons for your no, your yes, your silence, your desire, every pulse of your being forced to wear a caption. You call this authenticity, but it is captivity. You are chained not by iron, but by context. Do you think God explained himself when he said, "Let there be light"? He spoke, he did not justify. The Creator does not explain, he commands, he declares. His voice is not argument, it is Genesis. And when you speak from the core of your being, you are that same voice. The universe does not ask for your reasoning, it responds to your vibration. The herd has made you forget that silence can roar, that stillness can scream. You have learned to decorate your truth instead of declaring it. You have confused being liked with being luminous. But light does not negotiate, it burns. It blinks. It exposes. It transforms. You cannot explain illumination. You can only endure it. I have walked through your cities so bright, yet so dim. The skyscrapers reach heaven, but the souls lie flat. You mistake visibility for vision. You think being seen is the same as being alive. But you can be visible and still dead, explained and still forgotten. The gods do not want your visibility. They want your magnitude. You must die to explanation, to be reborn in power. To stop translating yourself is to begin existing in your native tongue, the raw sound of being. And that sound terrifies the crowd, for it reminds them of the wild they buried. That is why they will call you arrogant, cruel, heartless, or mad. Let them. The price of remaining misunderstood is the inheritance of freedom. Do not defend your fire to those who live in water. Let them call you what they must. Your silence is more eloquent than their words. Every explanation you give feeds their illusion that they have understood you. And understanding is the weapon of the mediocre. Once they think they know you, they stop fearing you. And when they stop fearing you, they stop respecting you. Do not be known, be felt. You do not owe anyone a bridge to your chaos. Let them drown if they cannot swim. The moment you begin to explain, you betray the divine trust of your own mystery. To explain your magic is to turn wine back into water. To explain your truth is to return to the prison of reason. You cannot both awaken and be understood. The light blinds those who still love the dark. You have tried so hard to be kind, but your kindness has become your cage. You explain to avoid offending, You apologize to be accepted. And in doing so, you have become hollow, a saint of politeness, crucified on the cross of empathy. Compassion without strength is corruption. Love without boundaries is decay. The world does not need more kindness. It needs more fire disguised as kindness. You must learn the sacred cruelty of authenticity, the holy violence of saying no without explanation, of walking away without guilt, of existing without permission. That is the birth of the overman, when compassion no longer contradicts strength, when silence no longer fears misunderstanding, when love no longer apologizes for its intensity. You think the world is collapsing. No, the world is merely revealing itself, its softness, its fear, its endless craving for validation. You say, we live in the age of chaos. I say, no, we live in the age of explanation. Chaos is creation. Explanation is decay. The apocalypse is not destruction. It is the moment the masks of reason fall. And all that remains is the unfiltered scream of being, listen, madness is not your enemy. Madness is the echo of your unspoken truth, trying to return home. The world fears madness because it cannot control it. But you must learn to drink from it. The cup of chaos is holy. It burns away everything artificial. Those who dare to sip from it will find themselves remade into creators. Those who refuse will drown in polite despair. You must dance again with your own insanity. You must stand naked before the abyss. Without explaining your trembling, you must let your confusion sing. That song, the song of unreason, is the birth hymn of freedom. When I descended into madness, they called it illness. But I tell you it was revelation. The mind breaks when it can no longer explain what the soul knows. That fracture is not failure, it is transformation. The fool clings to sanity because he fears becoming divine. The wise man lets himself be devoured by what he cannot name. Out of that annihilation light, to create, you must die in the eyes of reason. To awaken, you must become the thing the world warns others about. There is no resurrection without scandal. There is no truth without blasphemy. You will not rise until you are willing to be called insane. The madness of the Creator is sacred because it is fertile. He breaks the old laws not out of malice, but because he sees a new world gestating in the cracks. He laughs not because he mocks, but because he remembers what is beyond morality. His laughter is not contempt, it is clarity too vast for comprehension. Do you think Dionysus explained his ecstasy? He danced it. He became it. His madness was music. His chaos, an altar. The wise feared him. The meek hated him. The free followed him into the night. That is the path of the overman, to dance upon the ruins of reason until the stars themselves begin to move. And you who tremble at misunderstanding, why do you still seek permission to exist? You are the offspring of eternity. You carry galaxies in your silence. You carry gods in your shadow. You do not need to be explained, you need to be unleashed. The herd will never understand why you walk alone. Let them call it loneliness. You will know it as sovereignty. They will call your joy arrogance. You will know it as resurrection. They will call your silence emptiness. You will know it as communion. To them, your light will look like darkness, your peace like madness, your laughter like cruelty. So be it. They do not know the cost of being awake. Do not seek to be remembered as good. Seek to be remembered as real. Goodness is fashion, reality is eternal. Morality changes with time, but truth remains wild. The world rewards those who fit, but eternity crowns those who burn. And now the time of explanation ends. The sacred madness begins. You must learn to say I am, and nothing more. You must learn to exist as a question that answers itself through being. You must learn to love without describing, to believe without proving, to act without defending. That is the return of the God within man, the resurrection of will. The will is the voice beneath every word, the silence behind every prayer. It does not ask, why? It declares, because I am. It is not humility, it is origin. You are not a collection of reasons. You are the unreason that births all reasons. Stop explaining. Start existing. Stop convincing. Start creating. Stop fearing. Start becoming. Every time you explain, you delay your evolution. Every time you justify, you lower yourself to the comprehension of the half-awake. But the half-awake do not need explanation. They need shock. They need the sound of truth cracking through their numbness. Be that sound. There is holiness in your refusal to explain. It is the silence of mountains, the stillness before thunder, the calm of gods before creation. You are most divine not when you are understood, but when you are felt as a force too vast for reason. And now the fire quiets, not extinguished, but internalized. I have raged enough. Now I speak as silence made flesh. Do you feel it? The strange peace that follows destruction? That is not comfort, it is clarity. You have feared chaos, but chaos was your teacher. You have fled misunderstanding, but misunderstanding was your liberation. Everything you feared losing through silence, you have already lost through explanation. Now you stand bare, wordless, untranslatable, and that finally is power. Only when you are beyond explanation does the universe kneel to your presence. Only when you no longer need to be seen do you begin to shine. Only when you stop apologizing do you become holy. Do not speak of yourself. Become yourself. Do not describe your light. Burn. Do not seek comprehension. Breathe eternity. And when they ask, "Who are you?" look at them. Smile softly and say nothing, for they will know. They will feel the truth they cannot explain, and they will never forget you. Now I descend, not as prophet, but as echo. The storm has spent itself, and yet the air still trembles with its memory. The madness has spoken, and now the silence walks among the ruins. This is where revelation becomes flesh again. This is where fire returns to form, where the eternal must live in time. You who have heard, what will you do now? Will you explain what you have felt? Will you go back to the market of meanings, selling your awakening for the price of belonging? You cannot carry fire in a box. The moment you try to explain it, it becomes smoke. The moment you translate the divine into polite words, it becomes doctrine. Do not let your experience be turned into a lesson. Live it until it burns everything false around you. I did not come to teach. I came to remind. You did not need another philosophy. You needed to remember your divinity. Every human is a fragment of the eternal, pretending to be ordinary. You have played small so that others feel safe. You have dimmed yourself so that others do not flinch. You have worn humility like a disguise. But the time of pretending is over. You cannot keep explaining the sun to those who have never opened their eyes. You cannot keep reasoning with the asleep. They will only dream you into something smaller. The truly awake do not explain, they radiate. They walk into rooms and alter the temperature of the air. They do not persuade, they are. That is the new prayer to live as embodiment. The old world worshipped gods of explanation, laws of clarity, systems of meaning. The new world is being born through those who dare to live as questions without answers. Do not fear uncertainty. It is the heartbeat of evolution. The more you try to define yourself, the more you shrink. But when you dare to remain undefined, the universe rushes in to meet you. I see it now, the human soul standing naked before infinity, trembling, yes, but alive. That trembling is sacred. It is the sign that you are near truth. The dead do not tremble, they are certain. Certainty is the sleep of the spirit. Trembling is awakening. You lose power every time you explain yourself, because explanation is a confession that you do not trust your own being. It is an attempt to control perception. But what is control? Fear disguised as wisdom. The one who is free no longer needs control. He allows the river to speak for him. His very existence becomes evidence. I have learned this through madness. You do not need to justify what is real. The rose does not justify its scent. The ocean does not justify its depth. The thunder does not justify its noise. Existence is its own defense. The moment you defend yourself, you step out of eternity and into theater. And the world loves actors, but it forgets gods. So I say to you, descend now from your mountain of explanation. Walk again among men, but do not speak their tongue. Let your silence disturb them. Let your laughter confuse them. Let your very presence remind them of what they have forgotten, that life is not a formula, but a flame. Do not preach authenticity. Embody it. Do not teach freedom. Live it so fully that it terrifies imitation. The greatest sermon is your unexplainable existence. When they ask you why you walk alone, tell them the crowd is too loud for your heartbeat. When they ask you why you do not explain yourself, tell them, because I am no longer negotiating with small gods. Do not defend your peace. Do not justify your joy. Do not explain your solitude. You owe no witness your narrative. You owe the divine only your becoming. If you must speak, let it be like thunder after drought, brief, impossible to ignore, and followed by the fertile silence of realization. And when you are misunderstood, smile. That is the highest recognition. To be misunderstood is to be seen without being possessed. The moment they understand you, they will cage you in comprehension. But when they cannot, they will be haunted by your mystery, and that haunting will awaken them. This is the sacred paradox of power. Only the one who refuses explanation becomes legend. The prophet becomes myth only when his words outgrow interpretation. The god becomes eternal only when his meaning cannot be domesticated. You are here not to be understood, but to leave an echo too vast to contain. So stop explaining and begin to resonate. Let your being be your proof. Let your silence be your argument. Let your fire be your evidence. You will find that once you stop explaining, the world rearranges itself around your certainty. People begin to bow, not out of obedience, but out of recognition. They feel in you what they have denied in themselves, the forgotten pulse of creation. That is how revolutions begin, not with manifestos, but with unexplainable presence. The unyielding calm of one who has nothing left to prove becomes contagious. You will lose many things in this silence: validation, company, comfort, but you will gain yourself. You will feel the quiet power of being untranslatable. You will walk not as identity, but as presence. That is the return to earth, not as humans seeking gods, but as God rediscovering humanity. Every age must birth its own gods, and you are that age's midwife. The divine is not above you, it is trapped within you, waiting for your refusal to explain. The moment you say, I am, without justification, you free it. And what of me? I, Nietzsche, who danced with insanity until it crowned me. I stand here now, calm, not because I have found answers, but because I have stopped asking the wrong questions. I have ceased explaining my fire to those made of dust. I no longer want to be understood. I want to be unavoidable. There is no audience left to convince, only eternity to ignite. So I speak now not as philosopher but as flame. The age of explanation is over. The age of embodiment has begun. Be unexplainable. Be unapologetic. Be untranslatable. And when you stand before the world naked, silent, radiant, remember, every God begins as a blasphemy, misunderstood by men. Every truth begins as madness whispered by eternity. Every light begins as darkness refusing to explain itself. And you, yes, you are that light. Do not prove it. Do not name it. Do not tame it. Just burn. And when the last word falls, and the crowd demands your meaning, turn, walk into the night, and let your silence be the final sermon. For only when you stop explaining do you finally begin to exist.